so this is Duik Basil 2. You can just click down. I've already downloaded it. It takes a little bit, um, but as you can see, you can create different structures and then animate different constraints and points to actually animate your character. So it comes with an auto rig, walk cycle, controllers, constraints, auto rigging, and then a whole bunch of other different stuff that's really helpful for animating. Okay, so if you've started downloading the Duik Basil zip, once that's done, just unzip it and you'll get this whole mess of stuff. We're gonna do this first, actually installing it. So first you have to open up After Effects. I'm just gonna use 2019. Create new project. It will show up in your window. Right now I got rid of all of my scripts, so I won't see it right now. The way to load it up is fairly simple now. Used to, you'd have to go through all the folders and actually drag it into the script UI panel. But now you can just go to File, Scripts, Install Script UI panel. So inside the Duik Basil 2, you're going to go to the Script UI panels, and then Duik Basil 2, the JSX file. Then once you click Accept, it's going to click that, and then we will just we'll restart it. So window, and then it could be around here, or it could just be at the bottom, Duik Basil 2. Once you click that, it'll open up this nice window that shows you all the options that it has. So rigging, automations, animation, camera, and tools. And it's got a whole bunch of other little sneaky features. Today we're just going to be worried mostly about rigging. So you can create different structures and then auto rig them. And then you can have different controllers if you wanted to have different things. So the rigging, if you just click the humanoid, it creates this structure for a character. So it's got the hips, it's got the arms, it's got the legs, it's got everything that you would really need, and it's all labeled down here with the different layers. So what can we do with this? So I'm going to actually import the skeleton that I made. So tutoring Duik, the cartoon skeleton. And then, so since this is a Photoshop document with layers, we're not going to choose footage. We're going to choose composition, retain layer sizes. This will make it so that all the layers will come in on their own layers. So if we click OK and open cartoon skeleton, so we've got all of our pieces, and I've labeled them all, so it's a lot easier to actually find what you're looking for. So the ribs are labeled ribs, and the hips, and then each side is right and left, the character right and the character left. So we will actually work with this. So we've got everything here. We've got all 18 layers, and then what we're going to do is we're going to create a humanoid structure. And that's just going to make it go all over the place. And this is kind of the fun part where you're just going to go in, and I'm just going to open this window up a little bit. You're just going to go in and kind of put the joints where they should be, where they would rotate. So these little black like hit markers, those need to go where the joints are actually going to rotate. So for this arm, I'm going to move the, let's see, this one is arm. So that one's going to go here, and then this is the forearm. I'm actually going to put it in between those two. And then this is the hand, and then the hand tip. So it kind of goes down there. Now this doesn't take very much time, so I'm just going to move them into their place. And hips, I'll just put that there. This one. These two are spine joints. We only really have one rib cage, so no real spine joints. So I'm just going to put it in the middle. It won't really matter later on, but just to keep it there. And then we've got the neck, and then the head, and then the head tip. And then we're just going to do the legs. So we've got the foot, the toes, the toe tip, and then this guy is actually the heel controller, which will come in later once we actually rig it. So then I will just do the same thing on the other side. Alright, so we've got everything lined up, and right now nothing's really connected, so if I try to move this, it's not going to move anything. So we want to connect everything to these structures. And this is the most tedious part, so we've got 44 layers right now, so we kind of need to connect everything to these structures. So this is where, so the hips, I have to parent to this hip structure, and then I have to kind of go up the list. So the ribs will be parented to the spine. The neck is going to be parented to the neck, and the head is going to be parented to the head. Okay, and then it looks like the right arm is the arm, and then the left arm will be arm 2. So the left is 2, the right is 1. And let me just double check that. Yep. Okay. So left forearm, or left arm will go to arm 2. Forearm will go to forearm 2. And hand will go to hand 2. Okay, so I've got everything all lined up. Now, this is the fun part. So what we're going to do is we're just going to select all the structures. So I've got everything selected. And then inside the Duik panel, we're going to go to the second tab in the rigging and go to Auto Rig and IK. And if I just click that, it'll start doing its magic. It's going to take a little bit, and then it is done. So now what that's done is, if I can open it up. So now it's created a few nulls right here, and then a whole bunch of controllers. And I will actually just hide these. And what these do is, instead of rotating, so if I just undo that, and if I try rotating, if I try to move this, it'll just move the hand. And usually with After Effects, you have to rotate each individual piece. So if I want the arm to kind of move and do stuff like that, I'd have to do multiple rotations, which is called forward kinematics. So I'm just going to auto rig it. So usually by default, After Effects will only give you forward kinematics. And what Duik will allow you to do is to do inverse kinematics. So instead of going from the root down, you can go from the child forward. And now I can rotate the hand. And I can get this type of motion. What this is really important for is actually walking and moving the body. So if I move the body down, the legs stay in place, and as you can see, he's bending his knees, which is really nice. This can be useful for, if I just select everything, and this is fairly handy to get like a basic walk cycle down, but I wouldn't use it for everything. He's walking backwards right now, so I can just change the walk cycle to 3.5. Now he's walking forward. I'm not sure why this arm is not going. Let's try that again. Body, walk cycle. And then we'll do walk cycle 3.5. Okay. So now I've got him walking. You can change a whole bunch of different things with this, but this is fairly nice to use and pretty easy to figure out. A lot of other stuff. So that's kind of the basics of character rigging. So I will create a new composition, and we're just gonna make this guy. If you've ever played with the puppet pin tool, it's up here, and you can put little pins and actually kind of warp your mesh. This can be nice, but you kind of have to go inside of the effects, the puppet, the mesh, and the deform to actually get your pins, which is kind of annoying to deal with. But what you can actually do is if you select all the pins, and inside of Duik, there's inside the rigging, the second option, there's add bones. This is really nice for if you want to connect stuff. So I'm just gonna select all the pins and then add bones. And then what that does is it adds pins, and then you can actually move them around. And we'll just make that one a little different. I think this is how you do it. If it doesn't, then that'll be fine. Okay, there we go. Let me just change this. I actually haven't used this before, but now this is actually changing the shape layer and actually putting pins where the pinpoints are. And it also has a really nice Bezier curve. So you can actually change the Beziers. And I think if you rotate this guy, yeah, it'll rotate the Beziers together. So this can be really handy if you want like specific points to go to different places, and like you don't want to go into the shape layer and just keep using the path. You can actually have different points and actually overlap animation, which is really nice and really handy. I don't use this feature very much, but it is an option inside of Duik. So if I just do a quick move, it's not very fancy. What I can do is there's a bunch of different features. The spring one's pretty nice. So if I add a spring to here, it should by default kind of give a little bit of, so I've only got 2 keyframes here, but it's actually giving a bit of like give here. And you can change the, if you want anticipation, I'll just move the keyframes over. So that anticipation is pretty big. Okay. So this, I usually don't use these unless I'm really crunched for time. Just because you don't have as much control as you would if you would keyframe it by default. But this can be nice, like if you have like a character moving and you want the hair to kind of flow. This can be really nice to put some pins in the hair, and then animate them a little bit, and then add the spring effect, and it'll kind of wave between two positions. Let's see what else. Get rid of that. We'll get rid of that. Okay, so I'm going to keyframe there, keyframe there, then I'm going to make another shape. And keyframe from here to here. So I've got two sets of animation. I'm actually going to overlap that a little bit and then ease it. And I want to actually copy these keyframes and paste them at 1 second. What that usually does is it just duplicates the layer and then just puts it on top if you have multiple layers selected. So usually what you have to do is you have to copy them manually and paste them. What you can do with this though is, and this is like the basic of like only 2 layers. If you have like 20 or so layers that you need to copy animation from, this is really helpful. Inside of the animation help, so the little keyframe looking guy, you got a bunch of different things to use, but I'm just going to go over the copy and paste. So if I've got all the keyframes that I want selected, copy, and then I'm at the time that I want the first keyframe to be, and I paste, and it automatically looks at the names of the layers and the keyframes that you have for each layer, and then paste them. So now I've got this animation. This is really handy for more complex things. I don't think that you'll be able to run into this for a little bit, but this should be helpful later on, and if you can remember it, this should be really helpful. Oh, one thing I wanted to go over, and I don't think we went over this in class, but this becomes very important when you got, like, say 59 layers inside of one comp. And I just want to deal with the controls, so the green layers. And I don't want to have to scroll through everything. So what I can do is I can select everything, and I don't have to turn them off, but this little guy, it's called the shy layer. If I click him once, he goes away. So all these layers have them shied, but I can still see them. So what you need to do is you need to click the global switch up here. So it's got the same icon. So if I click this, I've still got all those layers because I can still see the skeleton layers, and I can select them, but I don't see them in my layer window, which can be really handy if you have like 300 layers or 59 layers right now, and I just don't need to deal with any of these other stuff. But I still need them in here, otherwise it won't work. So this can be really handy. There's actually one other thing that I completely forgot to talk about. It's got a bunch of different controls, so if I just zoom in, so you can control the toes, the toe tip, so you can have him on his tiptoes, the heel, and then the foot roll is really nice, where you can actually, so this is what the heel controller, which is down here, is useful for. And then you can keyframe all this stuff. You can keyframe everything basically. But yeah, that's Duik in a nutshell.